Hello everyone, I'm Archana and this video is going to be about the work I've done for BDAT1007 Assignment 2, Tools and Techniques for Real-Time Data Collection. On the screen are the topics that we'll be covering today. Let's jump into the first topic, Introduction. The aim of this assignment is to establish communication between two social media platforms and my web application. After that, I will retrieve data from the social media platforms and display it on my web application. I will then save this data onto a database. Finally, I will post from my web application on the social media platforms and examine the updated posts on my web application and the database as well. And this is of course after verifying the posts on my social media platforms. The two social media applications I chose are Reddit and Twitter. Reddit is a platform where users can submit text posts, images, and videos which can then be voted up or down by other users. Twitter works in a similar manner where the posts are referred to as tweets and registered users can post, like, and retweet tweets. Let's now have a look at the data flow and the technologies I used. So as you can see here, I have three main data flows. The green arrow represents the flow of data from my web application to Reddit and Twitter. So when I post to Reddit and Twitter, this is the flow that it will follow. I have used Python and Flask to post on Reddit and Twitter from my web application. The next data flow is the dark blue arrow, which basically is to get data from Reddit and Twitter and display it on my web application. Again, over here, I'm using Python and Flask to scrape data from Reddit and Twitter and to display it on my web application. Finally, the orange arrow, which is to send data to MongoDB. Now, in the previous step, we just retrieved data from Reddit and Twitter, and I'm going to use my web application to store this data into MongoDB and update MongoDB with upcoming or newer posts as and when there are new posts on Reddit and Twitter. Let's talk about the data models that I created for my application. I created two data models, one for Reddit and one for Twitter. The Reddit data model contains 8 variables: ID, text, score, subreddit, downs, title, ups, upvote ratio. And the Twitter data model contains 4 variables: ID, text, posted at, and username. Now these variables are fairly easy to understand, text in both cases being the actual contents of the post. I've highlighted 2 variables here, which is the subreddit and username. I'm going to use these two to understand or answer the question, what is a one-to-many list and how is it useful? Within Reddit, a number of posts are categorized under one particular subreddit, and it's the same with Twitter, where a number of posts are categorized under a particular username. So there is a one-to-many relationship between subreddit and the post and username and the post. We can utilize this one-to-many relationship to post on a particular subreddit or retrieve data from a particular subreddit, and to post on a particular username and retrieve data from a particular username. This is exactly what I've done, and I will explain further. Now let's talk about Python and the code I used. So I used the following libraries: praw, which is the library which enables us to connect with the Reddit API, JSON for JSON format data, requests so we can communicate with the HTML pages, pandas to create data frames, pymongo to connect with MongoDB, and finally Tweepy to connect with the Twitter API. In order to post and get data from Twitter, we need 4 variables, which is the consumer key, the consumer secret, the access token, and the access token secret. All of these variables are unique to a particular developer account and can be found on the Twitter developer account. So using these 4 variables, I'm going to create authentication keys and tokens and pass it into the API, the Twitter API, using the Tweepy library. And this will enable me to connect to the Twitter API to post on and get data from Twitter. As for Reddit, we need the client ID, the client secret, user agent, redirect URI. As for the refresh token, I generated it again using Python, and these values are again unique to a particular developer account on Reddit. So I've used the client ID and the secret key, and I'm creating over here a data dictionary where I'm going to specify the type of grant. So in this case, it's password, and I'm passing my username and password to Reddit as well. So using all of these variables, I have created an access token, and I'm going to pass this access token, which will enable me to connect to the Reddit API, and I will be able to post on Reddit, and I'll be able to retrieve data from Reddit. Now the second part of the code is where I created my web application, and I've done this using Flask. So let's have a look at the code. So over here, I've used Flask, and I've imported the following. I've imported Flask, redirect, URI for, render template, and request. So I have the main home function, wherein I've defined the Reddit variable and the Twitter variable to point to the post content that we will grab from the API and post on Reddit and Twitter. So I'm going to use these two variables to post on Reddit and post on Twitter. So I'm going to connect to the, for Reddit, I will connect to the subreddit, and then I will initialize the subreddit to a variable. And over here, I'm setting validate on submit to true, because from June of 2020, Reddit checks validation on posts. Over here, I'm predefining the title of the post to be posted from my API. Finally, I'm going to assign the value of self-text to Reddit, the content which we retrieve from the API, and I'm going to submit to that particular subreddit. And once this is completed, we will be able to post on Reddit. In a similar manner, for Twitter, I am initializing the variable tweet to the Twitter data, and I'm initializing the status to tweet, and I'm passing that as a argument into API update status. And after this is completed, the post will be available on Twitter. So once these steps are completed, we will be redirected to posted, which is available here. And in this function, we will be rendering the template posted, which will simply display the message which says that the posts have been updated. For the post table page and to update MongoDB, I have another function called posts over here. And in this case, I am going to first get the list of Reddit and Twitter posts, and I'm going to store them in data frames, and I'm going to display them as tables. For Twitter, I'm going to use my username, and I've set the count to 15. I've set the count to 150. So 150 Twitter posts will be retrieved. I have a cursor here which is going to enable me to fetch the list of tweets, and finally I'm storing it in the data frame tweets_df. As for Reddit, I am accessing my subreddit Sophism42, and I'm going to store this data in the data frame df, which I've initialized here, and I am populating it in this for loop. So at the end of this function, I'm going to render the template post.html, and I'm going to pass the two data frames as data tables on my web application. I also have the next part here, which is to post data on MongoDB. So previously, we retrieved data from Twitter and Reddit and stored them in two data frames. So I'm going to refer to those data frames, and I'm going to post, or I'm going to update MongoDB with those data frames. So firstly, I'm going to connect to MongoDB, and I'm going to connect to the database, Reddit, and the collection posts, and I'm going to insert the updated posts to Reddit. And in a similar manner, I will connect to Twitter, and I will connect to MongoDB for Twitter, connect to the database Twitter, the collection Twitter posts, and update the new tweets on MongoDB. Now, once this is completed, we will be redirected to the page posted to DB. The function is available here, which will just render the template posted to db.html, which will show us a confirmation message. All right, so let's go back to the presentation now. Let's talk about MongoDB. On MongoDB, I created two databases, Reddit and Twitter. Reddit contains the collection posts which has the data in the data model format that we just spoke about with 8 variables, and Twitter posts, which is the collection on Twitter, contains the data model that we discussed earlier with 4 variables. So this is how my web page looks. The first page enable us to post on Reddit and post on Twitter, and once we've done this, we'll have the confirmation and we'll be able to see the posts on my Twitter and my Reddit account. Once we've done that, we can also examine the posts on the posts page, where we will have 2 tables, one for Reddit and one for Twitter posts, and we'll be able to examine the updated posts on my web application. We can also post and update MongoDB. So once we click on update MongoDB, we should get the confirmation your posts have been updated to MongoDB, and we should be able to see the posts on MongoDB. So at MongoDB, when we actually look at the posts, we should be able to see the updated posts on the Reddit posts collection, and we should be able to see the updated posts on the Twitter posts collection. We can also refresh and examine the number of documents displayed to understand if the posts were updated. Alright, so now it's time for the live demo. So first, let's have a look at MongoDB. So currently at MongoDB, we have the 2 databases, Reddit and Twitter. Under Reddit, I have the collection posts, and under Twitter, I have the collection Twitter posts. Let's examine the Reddit collection posts first. Over here, we have a total of currently 15 posts that we've retrieved. The latest being live demo Reddit, and we have the data model in the format that we just discussed, where we have 8 variables: downs, ID, score, subreddit, text, title, ups, and upvote ratio. Let's examine the Twitter post collection. Over here we have the object ID and the model in the same manner that we discussed, wherein we have posted at, which is the time, the ID of the post, the text. Again, over here the latest one is live demo Twitter, and the username. And we have currently 15 posts that were retrieved. So now let's I have Flask running on my local system. I'm just gonna here we go. So this is my web application. So before we post on Reddit and Twitter, let's have a look at the post page. So over here we have the list of posts that were retrieved from Twitter and from Reddit. So so over here we can update MongoDB if we need to from my API. So let's go back here, and now let's post on Reddit. Let's post a new post for live DE demo, and let's post the same thing on Twitter as well. And over here let's say Reddit, and over here we'll say Twitter. So let's submit. There we go. We've got the confirmation which says your posts have been updated on Reddit and Twitter. Let's check Twitter, and we see the new post which is updated. New post for live demo Twitter. What about Reddit? Let's refresh, and we have it posted just now. New post for live demo Reddit. Let's go back here and have a look at the post page now. And we have the new post on our table, new post for live demo, and the same with Twitter, where we have new post for live demo updated on the Twitter table as well. Now let's update MongoDB. MongoDB has been updated. So let's come down here and refresh. There we go. We have the new post for live demo, which is updated into the Twitter post collection, and the total number of documents displayed is 16. So we have the new post which is updated now. Reddit post, we have the new post which is updated here, new post live demo Reddit, and again over here total is 16. So we have the new updates from Reddit as well. So that is how my API works, and so that's basically how we were able to post. We were able to post from my API onto Twitter and Reddit, and we were also able to view the corresponding posts on my web application, and we were able to update MongoDB from my web application. So this brings us to the end of the live demo and the presentation as well. Thank you and have a good day.